When you're asked to present to an executive, it is a big opportunity, both for visibility for yourself, but also to get things done. One okay from them and your project can move forward, you can get the resources that you need, you can expand your team. So it's definitely worth spending a bit of time and getting it right. But most people approach it completely the wrong way. And I find that they end up spending way too long and still their message doesn't land. So in this video, what I want to do is break down a process that you can use to prepare for an executive presentation. This is what most people do when they're asked to prepare a presentation. They go and they open up PowerPoint or Google Slides or Prezi or whatever you use, doesn't matter. The first thing you see when you open up this software is an invitation to start writing. So people start typing and they build out slides and they hope that at some point they're going to figure out their message, and then they script that, and then they rehearse, maybe they record themselves, but still it doesn't land, doesn't get inside their head. I was working with a director in a big company. She ran $300 million of business, and she was a brilliant woman, great in conversation, really good at explaining things, but the minute she was told to present, something kind of shut down inside her, and I think it was to do with her process. She told me that her process was to script every slide, memorize it, just kind of have this script in her head and try and press play when she got into the meeting. But the more she prepared, the worse it kind of got. She put all of this pressure on herself, and this preparation became a kind of straitjacket, which meant that she wasn't sounding fluent, but also wasn't feeling confident in the room. The answer for her and the answer for you is going to be to prepare backwards. Step number one is to define your objectives for the meeting or the presentation. What do you want them to think, feel, or do after you have finished speaking? If you cannot define this in one sentence, you are not ready to move on to the next step. So it's worth spending a little bit of time with this. And I actually recommend that you think about a next action, something that they're going to do when you finish that meeting. Something which is simple, specific, and symbolic. Now, the reason that I think that an action is so important is that is how things actually happen. That is how things get done. There's a wonderful quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it goes, all communication that isn't actionable is just noise. And I think that is completely true. We've got so much information flying around our organizations at the moment. We need to make next steps. We need to get something done. So you need to define that for your presentation. And this next step, this decision that you're trying to get to, will depend upon the audience that you're talking to. There are 4 types of audience. There are friendly audiences who like you and like your ideas. There are adversarial who don't like you and don't like your idea. There are apathetic who just don't care. And then there are people who don't understand what you're talking about, so they need educating. The kind of audience they are is of course going to impact what you can get them to do. So be reasonable about what this next step would be. Step number 2 is to understand their pain, because if you don't understand their pain, you won't know how to engage them. Particularly with executives, this is important. They're people who get distracted very easily, who just want to move on to the next thing. So they need to decide very, very quickly, is this person's idea something which is relevant to me and my strategy? So ask yourself, what keeps them up at night? What is the pain that they might actually feel? This sounds simple enough in principle, but the problem you will find is that they might not actually be aware of the problem that you're solving. They might not understand it yet. And if that is the case, you need to educate them. It's no good starting by saying like, this is the problem, this is what you need to do, if they can't feel it yet. So connect it to a pain that they feel. And if you genuinely don't know what their pain is, probably are not ready to present to them yet. That means you need to do some discovery. You need to talk to people around them. If you can engine in the meeting so you can ask them some questions, that's really, really good. But find out what they're actually trying to deal with. And only then can you move on to the next step. Step number 3 is to structure a simple journey. There's no point in giving them a checklist of 27 items. They just won't remember it. They won't be able to concentrate for that long. Instead, think of your presentation as a kind of journey from one place to another, from where their pain is to the action that you want them to take. Think about the rule of 3 as well. Our brain can hold 3 to 4 chunks of information at once. Any more than that, and we just forget the first one. The other thing that we want to do in this presentation is engage both sides of the brain. The left side, the more kind of logical side, where logic, data, and problems are, and the right side, inspiration, challenges, emotion. You need to have both in this. Another thing I'll say, which is maybe a little bit outside what this video is about, but you should not be presenting for the whole time. An executive or a decision maker is meant to challenge your thinking, and the decision is made during the discussion, not during the presentation. So if you have a half-hour meeting with someone, you don't speak for half an hour. In fact, what I recommend is a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 parts discussion to 1 part presenting. Your job is to frame a conversation, not to deliver a monologue. So if you have a half hour, then that means you've probably got about 20 minutes in practice because they're going to be late and you need time to summarize at the end. So you've got about 5 minutes really to present, and then 15 minutes of in-depth discussion, diving into the details that they want to talk about. Step number 4 is to test and refine with another person. Usually we practice, we go through our ideas, we say it out loud, we may do it in front of a mirror, we might film ourselves, and that is absolutely fine. But the thing you have to remember about practice is that practice makes permanent, not necessarily better. You might be doing the wrong thing. So before you touch your slides, before you build anything, find a colleague and say, can we have a 10-minute meeting? Talk through your idea in 2 to 3 minutes, that's all you need, and just check, does this make sense? Is it clear what they have to do next? And they're going to help you see whether it makes sense and whether they get lost or what questions they might have, what the holes are in your argument. This 10 minutes is going to save you absolutely hours because you know that what you're saying kind of makes sense. The other thing I'll say is that it makes you way more confident because you're going to be more familiar in delivering your idea to someone else. It will feel very awkward speaking just to one other person, but that's actually really good for you because that means that when you get into a meeting with a few people, you'll feel that much more ready to share your ideas like that. Once you've done all of these steps, now you can go away and build your slides, and it's going to be super quick because you know that your journey will make sense, and therefore you know what slides you're going to need. The old way of working, when you made your slides first, that wasn't the case. And that's why you've probably been in this situation, I definitely have, where you've made your slide deck, it looks really nice, but then you show it to someone, it doesn't make sense, and you have to spend ages redoing it all. This avoids all of that. So if you're presenting to an executive, start by defining your objective, then think about their pain, think about the story, the journey from their pain to your objective, and then test and refine with someone else. And I think it's going to go way better. I hope that was helpful for all of you. If you're interested in learning more about executive communication and storytelling, give us a follow right now, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much.